All right. So, welcome back, everybody. And this is another one of my mental health awareness interviews. And I've asked Liz if she would be willing to basically speak out. She lives in my area as well, so I personally know her on and off, hit or miss. And well, myself, I learned that one in every five, just in the United States alone, suffer with some form of mental disturbance. And I'm one of the one in five. And for about 10 years, I remained silent and tried to fix it myself. I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. I was fearful that if I did speak about it, that somebody would put me into a mental facility and I would lose my family, and the fear held me back. But as soon as I started speaking out about it, a weight was lifted off of my soul, off of my chest, and when I started speaking about it, my friends that I spoke to really identified with what I was saying. And that made me realize that, I suffer with anxiety and depression. And that is isolating in itself because, my family doesn't understand. My husband doesn't deal with it. That's a problem in its own self. And it made me feel alone, like I was all alone in it. And when my friends identified with the things that I was saying, it blew my mind and it really made me realize that I was not alone. And that's why I'm doing this today. I have interviewed probably a dozen people at this point, and each one of them, um, either they are a professional, they suffer from anything, which we all have mental health, but mental health difficulties, issues. Life is not all hunky dory and easygoing, and we all have things that come up in our life, whether it's a chemical imbalance, a clinical depression, whether it's diagnosable or just situational. We all have mental health responsibilities for our own self, and I'm gonna stop there. And I'm gonna ask Liz if she would kind of introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does and who she is.
All right, I'm Liz. I am a cashier for Walmart. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I suffer from anxiety, so that does make my job interesting, especially during the holidays. Um, so I get pretty quick. When my line gets pretty long, I tend to get people rung up and out the door pretty quickly. Um, I have two teenagers, 18 and 16. That's fun all by itself. So yeah, just kind of trying to do this thing called life with my tribe of people. 'Cause you can't do it alone.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. That's critical information. You can't do it alone. So, can you tell us just five things that you would like to volunteer about yourself?
Sure. Um, I am a domestic abuse survivor. I suffer from a laundry list, as I like to call it, of mental health issues. Major depressive disorder, anxiety, suicidal ideations with tendencies. I have survived a few suicide attempts. Um, and of course, being a single mom and a person who works in retail during this pandemic and everything else going on. So, yeah, good times, fun stuff.
Oh my gosh. I see some of your posts, man. People can be crazy. I couldn't do it. I can't do that.
It takes a special person to work in retail. It really does. And, working for Walmart is a whole other part of retail. Like I've worked retail off and on since I was 18, and yeah, that's 20 years, 22 years. So yeah, it definitely takes a whole other mindset to work as a cashier, especially at Walmart, because these people are so much fun.
People can be people, boy, I tell you what. So I'm gonna get into the mental health portion of this interview, and I would like to know, tell us what you think mental health is.
In my opinion, mental health is more than just the mind and the emotions, because your physical health has a direct relation with your emotional well-being. Your emotional well-being also plays a huge role in your physical well-being. Being that I suffer from depression, I also was hit by a drunk driver several years ago and it damaged my spine. So I got caught in this cycle of the physical pain and being depressed, which increased the physical pain, which increased the depression, and it just kept going and going through this horrible cycle. And I finally realized that that's not okay, and broke out of that. But mental health is spiritual, it's emotional, it's physical, and everything depends upon the other.
I agree with you. Okay, so do you think mental health is important, and why do you say your answer?
Absolutely, mental health is important. If we are depressed, especially those of us who have children, if we are depressed, how can we adequately provide for or take care of our children? Because sometimes depression can be so crippling that you can't get up out of bed. And if you can't get up out of bed and you have, a couple of tiny humans that depend on you for their survival, it does tend to make life difficult. If you have anxiety, it's difficult for you to get out and go to the store. Like for me, I have anxiety in big crowds. So during the holidays, it's difficult for me to get out and go grocery shopping. So, but it's something that has to be done. Um, Mental health awareness is such a big deal and needs to be a bigger deal than what it is, so people can feel comfortable with saying, hey, you know I need help. I need you to talk to me, or I need to talk to you and tell you, hey, I'm going through this, I need some help, words of encouragement, or what have you. And yeah, mental health affects so much of our daily lives without people even realizing it. If somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get angry. Okay. That's a mental health thing. How you process that and how you deal with that, it's either healthy or unhealthy. That's a mental health thing. And a lot of people don't really understand how much of our lives are controlled by our mental health, or how unhealthy our mental health is.
Heck yes. Oh, yes. Okay, so, I shared a little bit of my story, and in every one of these interviews, I may or may not share the same thing, but at the beginning of this, I shared that I felt like I was alone in this. And this is why I asked this question, because people need to hear this. Um, do you think that mental health, or mental illness, rather, mental illness, whether it be diagnosable or just situational, do you think that it's a common thing?
Absolutely. It is far more common than people actually realize, because people don't openly discuss their mental illnesses or their issues or whatever. Because, like, anxiety is such a big thing, and so many people have anxiety, but, you know, there's so much more to mental health, and there are so many more mental illnesses than just anxiety or just depression. So, um, I forgot the question. I'm sorry. I was getting off on something and forgot
I
the
was
original
asking if it's
question.
a normal thing. Do you think it's
Oh
normal?
yeah. Yeah, it's normal. It needs to be more normal. People need to be able to openly discuss, how they feel, more than just, oh, I've had a great day today and I want to share, you know, this great thing that happened. Well, we also need to be able to discuss the bad things that happen and normalize how we feel about certain situations.
Right. Like I've never been diagnosed with any form of like nothing mental health wise, but I know, like I'm not dumb. The struggle is real, and there
Yeah, it
I
is.
think it's either a hormonal or chemical imbalance, same difference, but there's definitely something there, and it could be diagnosable. I'm sure if I went to a doctor to see about it, and there have been people diagnosed with it, there will be people diagnosed with it. But also, there's normal lifestyles that people live, and things happen that impact their normal lifestyle, which is part of life is suffering loss. That is what it
Yeah,
is meant to be, or not meant to be. That's what it is to be human, is to suffer loss, and that's not a normal, like a daily thing that we endure. But when it happens, we have to deal with it. And there's 7 stages of grief, and people aren't prepared for example, people just they beat themselves up and get lost. And
mhm,
depression is part of the 7 stages of anger, denial,
bargaining.
yeah, bargain, yes. And that's normal. It may not be an everyday situation for individuals, but it's part of life, and part of living is experiencing the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So, um, why do you think that there's such a stigma in this world about mental health and mental illness?
Oh, wow. That can go back centuries. If you look at, especially with women, if you look back into women's history, um, they thought if they fumigated the womb, it would cure a woman of her mania or, whatever. If a woman was in the ages where, premarital sex was definitely definitely looked down on, if she was promiscuous or had thoughts of impurity, there you go, mental institution. You're going to be locked up for the rest of your life. You're not crazy, but because you don't fit into societal norms, you know we're going to shoo you away to this mental institution so we don't have to deal with you anymore. Let somebody else take care of you. So things like that have really, really given a bad rap to mental health. And, you know, also if you look at people like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, these are not normal, sane human beings. Um, I mean, that just they completely take the cake there. But, when you look at the criminally insane, you know, everybody thinks, oh, well, okay, so these people are crazy because they like to kill people and eat them. So, if you have anxiety, if you have depression, if you have bipolar disorder, then, you're just as crazy as they are. And that's not okay. And that's not true. That's not true. My grandmother, mental health issues are genetic or can be genetic. My grandmother suffered from manic depression, which is now known as bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. Um, she was sent to Central State Hospital in Milledgeville for a little while. And, it took a little while for her to get on the right doses and the right types of medication. And after that, she was fine. I grew up not knowing until I was a teenager that, hey, my grandma was sent to the loony bin. And that's another thing, is the stigma attached to that. It's a mental asylum, it's a mental institution. And the word asylum is not, it doesn't carry a positive connotation to it. It's always deemed as something bad, so we make fun of it and call it a loony bin. And that's acceptable, that's okay. But to call it an institution where somebody needs to go and get help, a hospital for someone to receive treatment for what they're going through at the time, needs to become a more normalized thing rather than, having a stigma attached to it. Oh, they're crazy, so they belong in like a leper colony, or something like that. So yeah, definitely the stigma needs to be removed. It needs to not be as taboo as it is now in the 21st century. Thank goodness there's so much more awareness about it, but there's still, in the 21st century, we still have a major stigma attached to people who suffer from mental illness.
Oh yes. Every time I do these interviews, people say stuff, and I'm just like, just like yes, and like sometimes like whoa, just shouting. I have to mute my mic so it doesn't overpower what you're saying. I'm just, it's important. We've got to talk about this. So this
Absolutely.
one was not one of the questions that I've been asking, but it kind of fits into what we're saying regarding the stigma. I'm hearing what you're saying, and that is absolutely true. I think that's the root of the stigma, and I don't even like the word stigma, but it is what it is.
Right.
um, People that have a mental disturbance, any form, whether it be situational or chemical imbalance, diagnosable, taking medicine for it, therapy, whatever, do you think that they should be ashamed of that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no shame in, um, for instance, one of my best friends suffers from seasonal affective disorder. So she gets depressed right around the holidays, and that is a normal thing. It's far more common than people realize, the holiday blues or what have you, postpartum depression. That's a thing. It's more common than people realize. You know, yeah, there's so much more to mental health that, yeah, there's just so much more that needs to be normalized, and people need to realize that, hey, you know yes, I'm depressed, yes, I have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make me any less of a person. It does not make me ineffective. It does not make me, you know I lost the word. I just had the word a minute ago. um but yeah, we are, it's nothing to be ashamed of. We are no less human beings because we suffer from depression or schizophrenia or any other mental disorder, and there are thousands of mental disorders, mental illnesses, chemical imbalances or what have you. PTSD. you know you don't have to be a soldier who's gone to war and come home and suffer from PTSD. Does that make you less of a person? No. Is it something to be ashamed of? Absolutely not. You need to realize that, hey, somebody else might suffer from this. Let me, maybe if I post something on social media, that's my way of reaching out. Somebody else can say, oh, hey, I have this too. And they shouldn't have to worry about being ridiculed for reaching out for help either.
Yes, I agree with all that, and I thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Before I ask the last question, do you have anything else to share regarding mental health or mental illness that you think people need to hear?
We don't do life alone, can't do life alone. Humans are meant to be social creatures. Cannot do life alone. It's impossible. Everybody needs to have their own tribe, their core of closest people to them that they know they can call no matter what time, day or night, they're there. Um, and it's so important to, even if you don't have any mental health issues, if you're not struggling that way, you can be there for someone that you don't know that is struggling that way. We have to be there for each other. There's a reason why they say it takes a village to raise a child. It does. And all these women, all these mothers, help raise each other's children to a degree. We need to bring back the community mentality, the almost the tribe mentality. And I'm lucky enough to have a core group of friends that we are like a tribe. We do have that mentality. If something horrible happens, my phone will ring at midnight and I'm on my way to make it, something like that. And or I take a friend down to Florida for something, and, like if I need something, when my brother was dying, he was at Emory in Atlanta, and one of my best friends from high school, we've been friends for over 20 years. She's basically my sister. She was there as soon as she could be, to come and visit and say, hey, I'm here for you. She was there with me when my mother died. So, you have to have these core people that you can lean on and they can lean on you. Because, like I said, you cannot do life alone. You have to have people other than the people that live in your same four walls to be able to reach out to. It's so important.
I'm glad you said that too. That's something I think anybody that suffers with mental disturbances, I like saying that word because people frown upon illness. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. I mean, it's
Right.
it's normal. It's normal, people. Anything that disturbs your normal life. That's why I use the word disturbance. So, people that struggle and battle with mental disturbances, it is critical to have a community to fall back on. And you're right,
Absolutely.
outside of your own four walls, my husband does not understand. He doesn't suffer with that. He's a normal thing. I mean, he gets angry or whatever. He's human, but it's not a daily battle for him like it is for me. And I've started speaking out about this, and people are sending me messages, and I've done multiple interviews about it because we have got to stop the stigma. We've got to
Absolutely.
normalize this. And one guy said that, oh, I just shut the door and it vibrated the whole house. I forgot what I was saying. Well, my last question is, how do you think we as a community can help those who we see that we are aware of that are suffering?
That's a hard one. I mean, like if you can see obvious signs of someone struggling, walk up to this person and, offer a little bit of kindness. A little bit of kindness goes a long way. Um, and I do that every day at work too. I've witnessed a woman in a relationship being abused by her partner, and later on, about a month later, she comes through and she's like, I don't know if you remember me. Well, yes, I do remember you. I want you to know that what you said to me that night really helped. you know um my thing is, I like to remind people to breathe, because we get caught up in so many things, and breathing is an involuntary reaction. It's an involuntary thing. We do it without thinking because that's how we survive. But when you take a moment during trauma or stress or anxiety or whatever you're going through, when you take a moment, take a step back and take that deep breath, because we forget, I need to breathe. It really helps. So I tell people, just remember to breathe. Just breathe, and it really does make a difference when you take that step back and you take that deep breath. And, it's kind of like, okay, I can regroup and I can go, because that's what helps me a lot of times. So, and there's so much hate in the world, so much hate all over the planet. And that right now, especially right now, all it takes is a little bit of kindness, a kind word to somebody. Um, I was working the other day, and I even posted this on my Facebook page and tagged the Walmart that I work at. This sweet little girl had her My Little Pony doll, and with the current events being what they are, she was a little girl of color, and I'm paying attention to the fact that my daughter had the same thing when she was little, and I think that's absolutely adorable. So, I talked to her. I was like, hey, what do you have there? And, her mom immediately tells her daughter, he's like, what did I tell you about bringing your toy into a place into a store like this? They're going to think you stole it. I said, no, no, not me. I don't think that way. I said, my daughter had a toy like that. Rainbow Dash was her favorite. So what did I do? I got down on the little girl's level and I talked to her face to face because she looked scared. and you have to, because something like that can set her up later on in life, to be untrusting of certain situations or whatever. I said that will affect her mental health. And I looked at her, I was like, you need a hug. You look like you need a hug. I know I need a hug. I said, can I hug you? Well, her mom was just blown away and she thought that was so sweet. And the little girl asked if she could take a picture with me. I said, absolutely, And so, yeah, I took a selfie with the little girl and, her mom and I talked for a minute and she and I talked for a minute. And, these are the types of situations that with little ones, it's important to make them comfortable so they don't have that fear, so they don't have that anxiety. Because being so small, if the situation isn't handled properly, that can set her up later in life to have irrational fears and horrible anxiety about different situations. So, you take any opportunity you can to be kind to somebody and, try to build, especially women, try to build each other up instead of tear each other down on social media. You know, um, like my daughter, for instance, she constantly compliments random people. Oh, I like your hair. I like your shirt. Doesn't matter where we are on vacation. I like your shirt. I like your hair. I like your nails, whatever. And that's just something to build somebody up because you don't know what kind of day somebody's had. Somebody could have had the worst day of their lives and, they have to go to Walmart and, a little bit of kindness goes a long way. And something I say to them, if I just say, have a nice day, you know, service with a smile, whatever, because I'm old school customer service. So, I have that mentality still. So, that might change their perspective for the day. It might, remind them that everything will be okay, that they will come through whatever they're going through at that moment. So it's really important to, if you see somebody struggling, offer a kind word because kindness goes a long, long way.
Yes, I'm glad my mic is muted because I'm just like, yes, yes, yeah, I'm clapping and just like, that is something that I say in almost all these interviews is just be kind. And
Yeah,
a simple smile or a simple kind word that only takes 3 seconds, or asking about a person so you see them, they know you see them, can
right.
literally save their life, literally. Because,
Yes, it can.
yeah.
It can because, like I said before, I suffer from suicidal ideations. So, if I, and there have been times, not anytime recently, but there have been times where, I'm having like one of the worst weeks of my life, so it seems at the moment, and I contemplate whether or not I want to be here anymore. And, and I'll plan out what I want to do to end my life. And then, I go somewhere and somebody's kinder than usual. And it's like, okay, you know, let me take a step back, let me take a breath. Okay, you know, that's all it took for me to stay, to not go through with my plan. So yeah, kindness really does go a long way. And you really can literally save someone's life just by being kind.
We need more of that in the world. And if nobody takes anything from here, I guess the key points would be that mental disturbances are normal. We need to ask for help and build a community for ourselves. It may not be our family, it might just be people like me and you. We hear
Right,
we hear that we're struggling and you can identify with it and we can reach out because I know you deal with stuff. Or, that's people have reached out to me since I started doing this because they say thank you for doing this. It makes me realize that this is normal and this is okay. um, and some of the things you shared or some things that I have shared, people may reach out and say, how did you pull out of this? How did you get fresh? How can you get to the point of breathing? Because people going through battles daily get beat down and it is exhausting. And
yes,
there have been, I've never gone as far as trying to take my life. I don't think that I could ever harm myself, but I have had thoughts where I just don't want to wake up in the morning. I want to
Yeah.
sleep and not wake up.
Yeah,
And
I get it though.
yeah, and you know, there's so much more to life, but sometimes it's overwhelming. We get stuck in our own head, and I coined the phrase
Yeah.
focus, fight, and breathe. When it gets overwhelming, I get in like a brain fog and I can't think straight. I can't even make a decision on what clothes to wear. Simple tasks like that overwhelm me,
Yeah.
and I'm bawling in the bed, just crying because I can't decide. And
Right.
so I was telling my friend one time he was struggling with depression. I coined this phrase. I wound up taking it back and using it for myself, and now I live by it. We got to focus, fight, breathe. Focus on one thing that has got to be done, a necessity. Fight through it until completion, and then we can breathe. And then start it all over. Focus on another one thing because we can only do so much at one time. Focus, fight,
Right.
breathe.
That's why I really don't like the saying, one day at a time, as if 2 days at a time are an option. They're not. So it's impossible to take it more than one day at a time. Um, but about 3 years ago, I slit my wrist and wound up in a mental facility in Stockbridge, Georgia for about a week. And in one of our group therapy sessions, they had talked about a former patient who said that he takes it when things get really hard, he takes it minute by minute, and you survive this minute, you move on to the next minute. You survive that one, and then it's hour by hour, or like half hour by half hour, and then hour by hour, and then day by day, then week by week, then month by month, and then year by year. So, if you start small and just focus on the right now, you know, I can make it through these 60 seconds, and then I can make it through these 60 seconds, and okay, I've done that. So I can make it through the next half hour, then I can make it through the next hour, and so on until, it's day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. So, yeah, start small, like your thing, focus, fight, breathe. I love that. I love that. I'm going to write that down somewhere.
Okay, I thought I unmuted my mic. My bad. Well, I appreciate your thoughts, and sometimes it's not so easy to talk about it, but we've got to get over ourselves in a manner of thinking, like beating ourselves up, self-shaming ourselves. There's nothing wrong. We just got to sort through it, and sometimes it requires with the help of other people. We
Oh, yeah.
I'm an overthinker. I have somewhat OCD tendencies and control issues, and that's probably why I'm in the situation, like mentally, that I'm in, because I mean I have leadership qualities, yada yada yada, but even the strong ones need a strong one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Because
time
we
for a
can't do
change.
this alone.
It's time for the world's point of view to change, and it's
Absolutely.
got to come back to normalization. It's normal. This is a normal thing.
Yeah.
And if you need help, ask. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate your willingness to do this. Thank you so, so much for your heart, for sharing your thoughts. And let's not end it here. Let's keep this going.
Absolutely. I'm happy that you asked. I feel honored to do this for you. So, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to, help somebody if I can. If my words help save somebody's life, then, that's a good thing.
Yes,
If
that's
your words help somebody, that's a good thing.
that's the
So,
whole point of
yeah,
it, is to speak out and let people know it's okay. Speak out, talk about it. Don't keep it in and bottle up and end your life. It's just my husband. Okay, Alexis, my oldest stepdaughter, her boyfriend actually ended his life. He OD'd in February, and
I remember that.
my husband told the kids when we had to sit down and talk about it. That was so hard.
Yeah,
He told them nothing is worth your life. Nothing is worth your life. Like nothing's worth taking your life, rather. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to end it here. And again, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right.
Breathe. Just
Yes,
breathe.
breathe. Yes, just breathe. Thank you. I'll see you around. Thank you so much.
No
Bye.
problem. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too. Bye.